Not that long ago, secret rares from both Timegazer and Space Juggler were revealed on the internet, and we can very reasonably expect that these cards will make their way into Astral Radiance, the new Pokémon TCG English set, due a little bit later this year in May. So, in today's video, we'll take a look at some of those secret rares, what we can expect to have in this upcoming set, and talk a little bit about the way that sets are currently structured and whether that is a good thing or a bad thing for the long-term collectability and enjoyability of sets in the Sword and Shield Pokemon era. But before we do, as we always do, let's roll that intro. Hey Gengar Gang, what is going on? My name is Ryan, this is the Analytic Gengar, and welcome to another video. In today's video, friends, we do a Astral Radiance preview, taking a look at 42 of the Timegazer and Space Juggler secret rares that were recently posted to social media. As a result, we can most likely expect that most of these cards will make their way into the English Pokemon trading card game, likely in Astral Radiance, the set that's coming out not that long from now, probably about a month and a couple of weeks away. So what's interesting to note is that many of these cards we can expect to see pretty shortly, and yeah, so in today's video we'll take a look. I will provide to you some of my candid thoughts, as we always do, and of course the link to this article will be down below. Before we get started, don't forget, if you like today's video and you enjoy my content here on the channel, definitely feel free to leave a like on this video, go check out some other videos, and if you're not already, consider subscribing. It's the freest and easiest way to help support the channel and let me know that you guys like content like this. But without further ado, let's jump right on into it. From Pokebeach.com, here are the 42 Timegazer and Space Juggler secret rares that have been posted. So the article does note that this dual set, which effectively just features the box art legendaries Palkia and Dialga, will likely become part of May's Astral Radiance set. We'll also see some cards from Battle Region, which was the previous Japanese set, so we can, as usual, expect the English set to basically be an amalgamation of 2 or 3 different Japanese sets. Now, because the 3 sets together have too many cards, we can also expect some portion of those cards to get cut and saved for August's last Origin set, which will be the other English set that will probably help box out the difference between these 2 sets of cards. Now, for Timegazer, this will be the set specifically themed after Dialga, and the special art shows different phases of the moon at the same time to reference its ability to control time. So if we're taking a look at these cards super quickly, you've got Lilligant. Obviously, many of these cards are quite literally direct copy-paste Pokemon from Pokemon's Legends Arceus, or PLA, as I'm going to call it for the remainder of the video. PLA is the acronym it goes by nowadays. And so, unsurprisingly, many of the Pokemon, the trainers, the people, and even some of the imagery depicted in that video game have officially made their way into the Pokemon TCG. I think long term that may make this set a very important set, and the reason I say that is specifically because this is the first time we've had a Pokemon video game outside of the main releases that has so drastically impacted the Pokemon trading card game. So if you stop and think about it for a minute, in the past it's always a pretty simple formula. You have Pokemon games, then you have the Pokemon trading card sets that are loosely based off of them. Then, occasionally, starting in Generation 3, they started making re-releases, so things like Fire Red and Leaf Green, and then matching trading card sets that would end up sort of, reflecting what was happening in the video game world in the trading card world. And that has, honestly, continued even up till now. If you're looking at the Sword and Shield era, obviously the Sword and Shield era matches directly with the Sword and Shield video games that released. And then the other thing to bear in mind is that we did have Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl release late 2021. But interestingly enough, that's usually where the story ends if we were looking back at the history of Pokemon, because realistically speaking, many of the other video games don't usually play such a massive role in influencing the overall trading card game sphere. Some things I can think of are Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee and Pokemon Go, and they have had small cards nodded to here and there, but it's really something special when you see something like this playing out, where an entire set of trading cards is effectively the PLA version of the TCG. So here we're seeing a lot of the Pokemon, the scenery, the imagery depicted in trading card form. So I think that's pretty cool. I think for a lot of reasons, this set may borrow from the hype of the video game, which by the way did very, very, very well for itself as a Nintendo Switch release, and as a result I have a feeling this particular set of trading cards is also going to be really loved and treasured by a lot of people, because they're going to make that correlation between the video game and the trading cards that are based off of it. So with that, we've got Hisuian Lilligant, which is pretty neat. Of course, many cards here include, but not limited to, the special arts. So here's one of the special arts, and this is a really, really interesting card for a variety of reasons. So you have Starly, Pachirisu, and Rufflet up here. And what's interesting is that all of these cards are Pokemon Legends Arceus Pokemon that are out there. Spheal is another one, Swinub is another one, Quillfish down here at the bottom, and Basculegion, and then I believe right in the corner is an Overquill. And Spheal has been the butt of many funny jokes and memes about Pokemon Legends Arceus because it's just such a goofball Pokemon. So the fact that it's literally getting, I think, punted by this particular Lilligant is actually hilarious. I can't tell if it's flying off into space because it just got kicked, or if it's like sleeping on this tree. I don't know which, but another really cool, interesting alternate art. I do have some thoughts and opinions on alternate arts that we do need to speak about, but that'll be a little bit later on in the video. Obviously, we have Luxray, another very popular Generation 4 Pokemon, and also, of course, one of the very popular Pokemon in PLA again. Here's a Pokemon that I did not expect in this particular set, and it's Jirachi. So what's interesting about Jirachi is obviously it's a Generation 3 Pokemon. To my knowledge, there has not yet been a special event of any kind for Pokemon's Legends Arceus, which has allowed players to catch this Pokemon. So interesting to see another Generation 3 Pokemon pop up. But all that said, I do appreciate the fact that they are including Pokemon like this. Obviously, that's kind of ironic given the fact that we literally had Evolving Skies themed after Rayquaza in large part, and so I am happy Generation 3 continues to get a lot of coverage and hype in these card sets, but I also just like the fact that, you know, Pokemon like Jirachi, which I don't believe have been very popular throughout the Sword and Shield era, are finally either making a debut or are making their rounds as some of the secret rares, ultra rares, and things of the sort within different sets. So it's nice to see Jirachi, one of my personal favorite Pokemon, but it's just nice to think that there'll be a little bit more variety going forward. Machamp, and then the alternate art. The alternate art's pretty cool. Machamp's usually not a Pokemon that gets a lot of love, but I think what's neat about this particular set of alternate arts is that they've done a really good job of incorporating a lot into one particular card. So you'll see there are some Maractus in the corner, so right where my mouse is here, as well as in the foreground of this image. There's a Trapinch that's actually carrying what looks like a bowl of food, and then Machamp dead center, as well as a Dugtrio. So for a variety of reasons, cards like this are super fun, super busy, super enjoyable to look at. And I think it's one of the reasons why cards like this will be quite fun to look at over, you know, a period of time. Now we have, and we move on to the origin form Dialga, and then of course the full art / alternate art version of that card. So this is just the V, but a really, really cool and good looking card. It looks divine. You know, that's the way that I think about it. These, you know, these particular Pokemon have pretty clearly and concisely been, you know, said to be deity-like Pokemon with control over space, time, and then, you know, antimatter. And so it doesn't really surprise me that they go for a very pious looking or almost holy looking image. And of course, one thing to note is that there are these circles right here. So these circles represent different phases of the moon, and that's what the article was noting, is that it's representative of the fact that Dialga can control time, and so you'll see multiple phases of the moon all in one particular image, and that's because it can do that because, you know, it's kind of the Pokemon that controls time. Moving on, we have Weirdeer, we have Adama, which is one of the trainers from the main story of PLA, no spoilers. And then, interestingly enough, we have Gardenia, which I did not expect to pop up here. The reason I say that is because I actually am very surprised that they would let a modern Pokemon trainer into a set that seems to be pretty consistently themed after PLA, which of course happens in an ancient time in the Pokemon timeline. So interestingly enough, I thought Gardenia almost seems out of place in this set, especially given all of the other trainers. As you can see with their outdated Pokeballs and things of the sort. So it seems like a little bit of a mismatch, but maybe there's a reason for that. You know, this isn't a theory that the article posits, but, you know, if Dialga wanted to, I guess it could allow a Pokemon trainer from out of time to appear in this particular set. So interestingly enough, Gardenia may be a time traveler. I don't know. More on that in a little bit, by the way. And then we move into the Rainbow Rares. Obviously, you have the VMAXs and the V-Stars. So some really interesting, cool-looking Pokemon cards here. Nothing particularly standoutish here. We do get that gold color card, similar to the Arceus card that was in Brilliant Stars, so that's cool. And then, of course, some additional gold trainer cards and a stadium card, both of which are pretty heavily themed after Pokemon's Legends Arceus. So then that basically wraps up all of the Timegazer cards. Next up is the Space Juggler cards. And what's interesting about Space Juggler is that there are actually a really neat Easter egg that has been confirmed and observed by multiple people. So my theory about Gardenia notwithstanding, this is a confirmed, pretty much, you know, observation within the set order. So for the very first time, a Pokemon is not in the correct position. The Japanese TCG has always ordered Pokemon by type, so the Water-type Palkia always comes after Fire-type Heatran. So the order goes Grass, Fire, Water, Lightning, and then so on, so on. But the two Pokemon are switched at the beginning of the Secret Rares in the Japanese set, and the writer in this particular article says that the personal explanation behind this is that Palkia controls space, so it moved its position within the secret rares to trick collectors. And, you know, not to say that as a joke, but it is possibly very true because it's a good way to implement the lore within the landscape of the TCG, and more importantly, Heatran is later correctly before Palkia in the Rainbow Rares. So one additional tidbit to recognize is that it seems almost purposeful that the full art, special art that we'll take a look at in a minute, as well as the regular full art, are before the fire type, but then later the order is reversed and quote-unquote correct. So that might be another indication that this was actually done on purpose. The secret rares, particularly the Palkia, seem to be a reference to Escher's relativity, so I'll show you guys that in a little bit, but let's get started with these secret rares. First up, we have a Beedrill. To my knowledge, Beedrill is shockingly not as prominent a Pokemon, so I'm actually surprised that they threw it in there. But, you know, it is there, so, you know, you do have the Weedle, Kakuna, and Beedrill family. Interesting little tidbit right there for you. Next up, we have an alternate art. So interestingly enough, here's another example of Pokemon really doing the best they can to give a Pokemon that really doesn't see much limelight and isn't really that popular a little bit of, you know, something cool. I kind of see this like many of the other alternate arts that are kind of getting thrown out there nowadays. The thing is that if you make alternate arts the new secret rares, there will always be preferences, right? So even though this is a cool card, theoretically, they could have done better for the Pokemon. And the other thing that I would care as much as to argue is, you know, given that it's coming out with some other amazing secret rares and alternate arts, there's a good chance it might get tossed out to the wayside. Here is the Pokemon card in question. So here is the full art origin form Palkia, and again, it's a water type, but is appearing before the fire type. So if you notice, the Beedrill is a grass type, and then technically next up should be the fire types. So here is the full art, and then here is the alternate art full art origin form Palkia. And as you can see, there is a really interesting sort of artwork being displayed here, it's clearly some sort of manifestation of time and space particularly, and if you look at it, it's exactly almost identical to Escher's relativity. So here is that image, and you can see if I kind of flip back and forth how Palkia is basically standing right in the middle of what would otherwise be the, you know, point in space where you would look to, and depending on where else you were observing from, everything would be relative. So a very slick and sly way of paying homage to, you know, Escher's relativity, which obviously is an artwork depicting the relativity of space and time. And so ironically enough, they found a way to really kind of get that in there for this particular artwork, which I think is pretty neat. Next up is Heatran. So again, Heatran would usually have come right here where my mouse is in between these sets of cards, but here we are anyway. Next up is Cleavor. So this is the Scyther evolution in Hisui. So interestingly enough, one of the Pokemon that a lot of folks might not actually recognize. The V-Star version of this card, if I'm not mistaken, is coming out in its own separate product, so do bear that in mind. Next up, we have a Sneasler, which is another Hisui variant Pokemon. So there's Hisuian Sneasel, and then it evolves into Sneasler, which is basically just a taller Pokemon. And here is the alternate art version of the Sneasler card. You can see some Hisuian Sneasel up here, and then Sneasler climbing. I think this one's pretty cool because for anyone who has not played Pokemon Legends Arceus as of yet, there are ride Pokemon in the game, and Sneasler is one of the Pokemon that you can use to ascend sheer cliffs. So it's one of the ride Pokemon that's available, and yeah, they quite literally just imported the actual function of the Pokemon in the game onto a trading card. I think things like this will help this set particularly stand out, especially as a source of nostalgia for a lot of people in the future. Next up, we have an Oranguru. To my knowledge, not a Pokemon that appears much of anywhere, but similar to the Jirachi, they might just, plug in random Pokemon here and there. Then you have the Pearl clan leader. I forget her name, so I'm going to not embarrass myself and tell you that it's Irida. So Irida is going to, I have a feeling she's going to be a waifu Pokemon. Waifu collectors rise up. Moving on. We got this guy whose name I don't know, so I'm going to do that again, Grant. And then you have Choi, and if I remember, Choi is the owner of the general store over in Hisui in the video game. So interestingly enough, another character who kind of makes their way here. So again, the quote-unquote Palkia side of the trading card split did end up getting a Pokemon trainer who looks to be very out of place as well. Again, if you're assuming that what was written in the article is true and Palkia moved its position relative to, the fire-type Pokemon as a quick little cool Easter egg, then I think it's also very likely that you could make the argument that Gardenia, as well as Grant, as well as any other Pokemon that are not natively found in Hisui, might have quote-unquote been teleported in time by Palkia. Just some random headcanon that I think would be pretty neat if everyone hypes me up on. Moving from there, you've got, Heatran, which is obviously one of the Generation 4 legendary / mythical Pokemon, so finally getting a VMAX version of that card. You've got the V-Star Palkia, you've got the Cleaver V-Star, you've got Iridia again, you've got, a couple of trainers. Moving on, you've got the full art color gold Palkia, which again, super cool, and you've got the temple, so that's another really nice nod to the video games at large, and that's literally called the Temple of Sinnoh, and yeah, exactly what it sounds like. Now obviously you've got tons of different comments. My particular opinion on this particular set of cards, I really do like what they're doing. I love the fact that this set is historical in many ways for a very strong reason, and that is because obviously it's the first set that will ever be influenced by a quote-unquote non-mainline Pokemon video game. Where, bear in mind, my definition of mainline would be, the mainline video games that have introduced us to new Pokemon or remade previous video games that have introduced us to new Pokemon. So when you're looking at things like the history of Pokemon cards, it's always been driven off of the video game, and there's always been a close relationship there, right? I don't think that's unreasonable to say. So what's interesting is that Pokemon Legends Arceus has undoubtedly left a huge change and shift in the way that we can expect trading cards to be sourced from video game material in the future, and I think that's pretty neat. The one, I guess, bad thing about this is that yet again we see the distillation of a set's meaning. When you look at Timegazer, or when you look at any of these sets, Battle Region, Timegazer, or Space Juggler, they were very distinctly themed off of very specific and distinct ideas, right? So Timegazer is Dialga's set, Space Juggler is Palkia's set, right? The problem is that when you now go through the effort of squishing 3 of these sets together, throwing them in a blender and pouring the smoothie out for the English release as Astral Radiance, although Astral Radiance I guess sounds cool, one has to ask the question, what does it even mean in the grand scheme of the sources of trading card sets that it originated from? So, very distinct sets that then get squished together, and by the time you get to it in English, it's basically just another 200 card set that has some, multi-syllable words that we hope impress you, and hey, at least the Elite Trainer box looks cool, right? So I think that's one of the major problems that we continue to see with Pokemon, and that I do hope becomes less of an issue perhaps when they reset at the beginning of 2023. The other major thing that I am hoping for is a release of the amount of alternate art cards. I've made the argument before, and I think the argument has only continued to make itself as time has gone on, but there's just too many alternate arts now. In Japan, you're seeing 2 sets and 42 secret rare cards, right? Just in this set alone, you're seeing the Lilligant, the Dialga, the Machamp, and then, that's 3, right? Mind you, there's about, I think, 18 cards here, so that's like a 1 in 6 secret rares is a alternate art. I think that's a good balance. The thing is, by the time you, again, go through the process of distilling all this down, blending it, and serving it up to the English TCG audience, we're probably going to end up with anywhere from 5 to 8 alternate arts in the set. Many of them will command a stupid high premium. Looking at you, Umbreon. And then, yeah, it's going to kind of take away from the, overall set, because there's usually that 1 or 2 alternate arts that kind of peak out above the rest and stay at a stupid high price. And the thing is that if you already go through the process of establishing ultra rares and then rainbow rares and V-stars and V-maxes and all of that other fun stuff, alternate arts are just the next level of artificial scarcity and artificial rarity in order to overhype a set. While I think the artwork is dope, and I'm really happy that a lot of great Pokemon are getting featured in these particular cards, I do think that at a certain point we'll want to see a rebalancing of how Pokemon goes about doing this, because the inevitable road that we're on right now inevitably just leads to every card being an alternate art card, and that might not necessarily be the ideal way of having this particular trend in the TCG play out for the foreseeable future. But let me know your thoughts down below on that particular topic. But friends, with all that said, that's all I got for you today. Thanks again for checking out another video, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, like I said before, definitely feel free to leave a like on the video to show some support to the channel, and if you're not already, feel free to subscribe to show some support and join the Gengar Gang. Other than that, let me know down below, how excited are you for Timegazer and Space Juggler? Are you planning on purchasing some of these sets in the original Japanese to open up for yourself, or will you just wait to see the artwork and the Pokemon cards in May's Astral Radiance set? Let me know down below. Thanks again as always, happy Tuesday, and we will talk soon. Peace.